The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus heard that John had been arrested, he withdrew to Galilee. He left Nazareth and went to live in Capernaum by the sea, in the region of Zebulun and Naphtali, that what had been said through Isaiah the prophet might be fulfilled. Land of Zebulun and land of Naphtali, the way to the sea beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people who sit in darkness have seen a great light. On those dwelling in a land overshadowed by death, light has arisen. From that time on, Jesus began to preach and say, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." As he was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew, casting a net into the sea. They were fishermen. He said to them, "Come after me, and I will make you fishers of men." At once they left their nets and followed him. He walked along from there and saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, mending their nets. He called them, and immediately they left their boats and their father and followed him. He went around all of Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, and curing every disease and illness among the people. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
In this liturgical year that began last Advent, we will be hearing regularly every Sunday from the Gospel of St. Matthew. In the Gospel reading for this Sunday from chapter 4, Matthew introduces his version of the beginning of the public ministry of Jesus. The announcement of the arrest of John the Baptist prompts Jesus to journey to Galilee. And his first move was to call some followers, two sets of brothers, Simon, known as Peter, and Andrew, and then James and John. Both are called away from their occupation. The play on the idea of fishing is clear. Jesus says to them, "Now you cast your nets to catch fish. But from this moment on, I am asking you to cast another kind of net in order to catch followers." The radical nature of their response should not be overlooked. Now, these men were not poor beggars. They were all gainfully employed in one of the most stable occupations of Galilee. And they have a lot to lose by following Jesus. Yet they drop everything and follow him. James and John even leave their father, an unusual move in a society where family ties were very strong and loyalty to one's father was of paramount importance. It should be noted that these two sets of brothers were called. They did not initiate their own discipleship as followers of rabbis normally did. Discipleship, then, is something we do not take upon ourselves. We are called to it. Some people are very conscious of this call. They are aware of it in their aspirations and their dreams. They recognize it in the events of their lives. They hear the call as clearly as Simon, Andrew, James, and John heard the voice of Jesus. But for others, perhaps for most, the call to discipleship is not so clear. Many may experience an undefined restlessness, a dissatisfaction with their lives. Or they may be very satisfied with life when they hear the call, as the four men in today's gospel seem to have been. People can respond to the call in a number of ways. Some consider the mere suggestion of discipleship an intrusion into their plans. Others drop what they are doing, leave their former concerns behind, and follow Jesus. Still others find themselves somewhere in between. In any case, the call to discipleship originates in God. Now, there seems to be a misunderstanding about being called and leaving everything behind. Although this morning's gospel says that Peter and Andrew, James and John left their occupation of fishing in order to follow Jesus, this kind of leaving behind was not, and still is not, required of everyone. For the vast majority of disciples, salvation unfolds in the ordinary events of our daily lives. And for most people, this is precisely where they are to function as disciples in their daily lives. Nevertheless, all disciples of Jesus, you and I, are called to leave behind certain ways of living as we follow him. We are, for example, called away from lives of pettiness and division. We are called away from a kind of factionalism that seems to have threatened the unity of the Corinthian community, as we heard in our second reading. We are called away from narrow-mindedness and mean-spirited competition. We are called away from absolutizing our interpretation of the gospel message. It is, in fact, much easier to leave one's nets than to leave the web of one's prejudices. And this is the darkness out of which disciples are called. If, on the other hand, we are called to leave certain things behind, to what are we called? Simply put, as disciples of Jesus, we are called to live lives of love. We are called to proclaim the kingdom of heaven, whether that be in public ministry or in the circumstances of everyday life. We are called to heal or at least comfort those who are troubled in mind or body or spirit. We are called to smash that yoke that might burden others, and if it cannot be smashed, to help carry the load. We are called to work for unity and peace within our church, within our country, within our world, even in the midst of diversity, differing opinions, and misunderstanding. We are called to respect the struggles and commitments of others. As we heard in our gospel today from St. Matthew, Jesus fulfills that prophecy of Isaiah, bringing light to the land of Zebulun and Naphtali, the region of Galilee. Likewise, as disciples of Jesus, you and I are called to be a light in a world all too filled with darkness and gloom. Now, this does not mean that we have all the answers. Why, we may not even know the questions. However, we have the assurance of God, who is our light and our salvation, as we sang in our responsorial psalm. Pope Francis said, "Our deepest joy comes from Christ, remaining with him, walking with him, being his disciples." Let us then truly be disciples, leaving behind whatever separates us from him and directing our hearts to following his way of love and service.